It's a fabulous Thursday here for Weather and Ag in Focus. And boy, if I got the date wrong, somebody call and let me know. But I think it's Thursday and it's looking pretty nice and sunny out there. If you want to go ahead and take the time to add to your sunny Thursday, maybe a great idea is to check out today's big deal auctions at our website, WDAYradionow.com. You can be bidding on a package for Coles Resort up at Big Turtle Lake. That's 12 miles north of Bemidji. $1,500 value indoor swimming pool. You can fish and swim on the lake in the cabins in front from your cabin. And then there's 30 different lakes within 30 minutes as well as dog friendly. There's an arcade and the Liars Lounge. It's probably a better name for a bar than the ones I hung out with in college, but nonetheless, it's a place for you to go. Welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for joining me. I'm Ag Director Bridgette Readel, and you can go shopping on our Big Deals auction today while you're hanging around with me for the show today. Lots of great things to talk about. And some of those would probably include the weather. If we look at our Thursday, it's a perfect backyard chicken egg collecting Thursday. It's only going to get to be just shy of 70 degrees, probably about 69 degrees today. No showers, but a reasonable amount of sunshine. I was hoping it would even warm up just a tick, but that'll happen tomorrow and bring with it some scattered showers, rolling into a nice weekend where we're looking for our weekend temperatures to be, let's just say 75 or a little bit warmer. I'm okay with that. I would definitely take some warmer weather, a little sunshine. Now, I don't want to get carried away. I don't want to ask for too warm of weather because then I know Addison is not going to appreciate my take on the temperature.
Basically, anything above like a hard 70 degrees, I don't enjoy.
No? Am I able to elevate that to 70? I feel like that's sort of perfect for us and we could have that over the weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got some room to grow. Got it. But I do like the fact that it's very moderate. It's great corn growing weather, although we'd see that happen even faster once our nighttime temperatures start staying, above 60 degrees. Next week, most of our night times already start to look like they're in the 50s. So we're going to need that sunshine to amp up our growing degree days and get that corn moving along. Meanwhile, if you have questions, maybe some of you got rain last night. We did. Got about 4/10 of rain right here in the northern Cass County area, just in a small direct shower, meaning that it didn't go very many places. It seemed to rain right here. So my garden says thank you, as do several fields in the region. If you got rainfall and you have a measurement out of your WDAY Dart or plastic rain gauge, you can give me a call at 701-293-9000. That's the JLA Insurance phone line. Phone line's open throughout the whole discussion today. Happy to have you join. And you might be watching us on the Lighthouse Commodities live stream. Many take advantage of that opportunity, and you can do so on Facebook, YouTube, and Acres TV. Just adds to your listening experience when you get the opportunity to see what in the world guests are showing, photos that they may share, and so much more. Which reminds me, I think I have some photos for today's guest. I'll make sure to be sending those over to Addison next. He's probably rolling his eyes thinking, come on, show host, get it together. You could have sent those to me before today.
You must think I have a lot more arms in here than I do.
I mostly compare you to an octopus because I figure that's what it takes is to have 8 arms for you to get everything done in there right before shows begin. Would I be right in your work?
Yeah, I've got. All right, let me get the layout in here for people. I have 3
Okay.
computer mice, 3 keyboards, 5 monitors, a mixing board, the phone, the stream deck to run everything. I have the computer that the show runs off of, the computer that the radio runs off of, and then my normal work computer in here, and my phone.
And I just need to talk. I need to keep up with the screen in front of me, what's going on 2 monitors next to me, and my phone as well. And you know what? We do it pretty well most days.
Most days. We have our
Most
days.
days. All right. So speaking of those most days, what are some of the things that are going on out there for other people? So when we talk about weather, the wildfires in Nebraska have truly been impacted by so much of the dry weather that's been happening in that state, and it has not improved. Much of those million acres that were burned still have not received more than a half inch of rainfall since last September. How big of an area burned? 20 miles in either direction of the community of Broadview, Nebraska. If you stood in Castleton, North Dakota, and looked the 20 miles to Fargo, that would be the distance all around that community. It's 20 miles. in a circumference around that city. And that is the situation that they are facing and hoping that they get some rainfall so that pastures, grass in the ditches, anywhere starts to come back. Well, what's it going to take for those cattlemen to also be able to bring back their operations? Because some lost cattle in the fires, many lost fences as well as structure, homes, and so much more. A lot of those cattlemen, they're also volunteer firefighters, so they may not have had the opportunity to be home to save their own place while they were out helping others. Well, those fences that I mentioned, current fencing costs are estimated to be between $15,000 and $18,000 per mile. You then need to think about replacing posts as well as at least a three-strand fence. And certainly fencing costs, like everything else, has gone up with inflation as of late. If you had old wooden posts, they certainly have burned off. They may have been older and were already starting to rot at the soil level. That's a possibility. Most fences you see today are probably T-post, steel fence, etc., steel post, and even those can be damaged by the intensity of the fire, the heat that went through there. A lot of the barbed wire is starting to turn a rust color, and that's really a sign of what's going to be coming. It will be more and more brittle and just start to break over time, whether that happens with snow pile up, whether it happens with wind, cattle pushing on it, and that's just the nature of fire that they deal with. So again, fencing, $15,000 to $18,000 per mile having to go through the terrain to replace wire, posts, and so much more. And then there's feed. If you're not getting enough rainfall to kickstart the grass in the ditches or the pastures, you certainly don't have enough to be starting to raise corn or anything else that you might be needing for feed. A lot of these ranchers are looking for foodstuffs to be brought into their area in order to try to feed their stock, or they've been looking for pasture in other states that were not affected by the wildfire. A lot of cattle have been shipped out of the region, going to new pasture and other places so that they can get back onto some nice pasture for the summer months with the hope that their home territory, you might say, starts a little bit of a resurgence and regrowth. Let's look a little bit closer to home. State of Minnesota. Minnesota beef producers had the opportunity to vote for a potential 50-cent increase with their state beef checkoff. The checkoff works this way. That is, right now, when you sell a beef animal, you use of your proceeds $1 of that which is sent to the checkoff. The checkoff then in turn uses those dollars for beef promotion within state and nationally as well. It is looked at as one of the best checkoffs in the country. We do them for soybeans, corn, and a tremendous amount of other commodities. But beef checkoff, there is a 12-to-1 return. For every dollar you spend, $12 comes back. So ballots were mailed out to beef producers to decide whether or not they wanted to have a 50-cent increase to go from $1 a head to $1.50. 3,477 ballots were sent out. What was returned? 377 ballots in favor, 380 ballots opposed. 3 ballots made the difference between whether or not to raise the checkoff by 50 cents. I don't think there was a tremendous amount of angst against raising it by 50 cents. I think there was probably more just a lack of concern. If it went up, it went up. And people just didn't take the time to vote, which is too bad because that very narrow margin left them without the opportunity to increase that checkoff by 50 cents. I'm not a beef producer in Minnesota. I am a member and I am part of a beef operation here in North Dakota. And personally speaking, I would look for that type of an increase as valuable to my herd and operation. I know others might not always agree depending on their position with the checkoff. Some commodity checkoffs, you can actually get the money back. You can send in for a request and have that refunded. So there's a variety of differences depending on the commodity that you want to talk about. That's current situation in Minnesota. All right, we are going to get the livestock market update that comes to us from the Northern Ag Network. But then we have the opportunity to visit with our guest today, and his name is Sean Helt. He's with Helt Turf Farm because you know what? Just like when we learned about grass seed not that long ago from the Pacific Northwest, somebody's got to get the turf out there for your lawn. Let's talk to the guy who does it. And we'll do that when we return. Thanks again to Blake Sunday and the folks over at Landmark Companies. They are your drainage in the field experts, and they helped us out by making sure we delivered flags to farmers earlier this spring while folks were in the midst of spring planting. So fly those flags proudly on any of your farm equipment, on your flagpoles, or in your shop. And we look forward to doing that later on this summer with another sponsor as well. Our guest today is going to talk all about turf, not turf toe, not turf monster. That's leave that for the sports guys to talk about. But for us, how'd that turf get there? And we're going to visit with Sean Helt. He's with Helt's Turf Farm. Sean, how are things a little further south today?
We had a little rain yesterday. We are working today, but it it's fairly cool, so we're good.
So let's talk about this turf situation. How did y'all get started? Because when people think about farming, it's very easy for us to talk about wheat and corn and cattle, but not necessarily about turf.
Well, this is kind of a complicated story. In 1963, my grandfather had I had some kind of a hay field, and the only thing that had really thrived in the field was bluegrass, and he didn't know what he was going to do with it. And he had a niece who uh, had married a home builder in our small town we live in, Harrisonville, Missouri, and which is part of Cass County, Missouri. Anyway, so so he had decided one day they were out looking at the field, and he was complaining to his niece's husband. And he looked at it and he said, "Ralph, I think we could maybe mow this and fertilize it, and if we had a sod cutter, we could put this on my model homes in town." And 2 or 3 weeks later, my grandpa was reading the for sale items in the newspaper, and he found a walk behind sod cutter, and the rest is kind of history. My parents started Helt's Turf Farm in 1971, which is a kind of a separate company from my grandfather, but I mean we all kind of work together. So
So this is a long established family farm. And for those who are listening, and even for myself, I mean, I started my lawn from seed, but is turf the same as sod in your industry? Are you doing essentially the same thing, or what would be the difference?
well, so yeah, so sod. I mean, we've always called ourselves a turf farm, but now there's a nasty competitor that is called turf that is synthetic, and I don't think it's great for the environment like grass is. I mean, grass cools and filters the air, and and it but and it's safer to play sports on real grass than it is plastic. But anyway, on sports fields we have um, a competitor that is made out of plastic. So, but
I
so
appreciate
anyway,
you
we go
helping
by.
us see that.
Sorry,
No, no,
yeah,
no, that's
yeah.
great. I really appreciate you saying that because so many of us would think it's the same thing. But you're right. Turf generally it means more artificial, whereas when you're dealing with sod, especially what you guys are doing with your business, that is a living, breathing product. So let's talk about how you get it there. How do you actually farm turf? Are you planting the seeds and letting it grow up like a regular crop? What does this look like?
So yeah, we two different ways. So uh, we grow some warm season turf that is not real common to our area. We grow some three licensed Bermuda grasses, and they are typically they're a vegetative plant where we actually buy a sod from another grower, and then we put it in a machine that chops it up and kind of plants it back in the dirt. And we're not great big in the Bermuda business, but our fescue and bluegrass cool season grasses are they are derived from a seed where we have a cultipacker seeder that we work the ground up and get it a nice seed bed, and then we use these cultipacker seeders and start it from seed. And sometimes we can use some drills too, but the spacing on the drills has to be about 3.5 inches or closer,
Oh,
or it just
oh
look
my.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that makes good sense. So you've created the seed bed, you've put the seed in the ground. Do you spend a lot of time doing fertilization? Is there much of a problem with weed control, or is it the fact that your crop, so to speak, is so dense that it really doesn't allow for much weed competition?
So once you get it established, yes, I mean it canopies over and gets thick and and you don't fight the weeds as much, but crabgrass is a big problem in sod, and grubs are another thing we don't like very much, and so we treat about 3 times a year for different, whether it's insecticides or pesticides, or we're like every spring, every fall, we do a big broadleaf control on the grass.
Hmm.
Spring we put down a crabgrass pre-emergent, and then late spring we put down our grub control. But then when we get into July and August, we're putting fungicides on as well. And it seems like we do a lot of spraying, a lot of fertilization, mainly granular fertilization. We're set up to run some stuff through the pivots as well, but mainly, we try to fertilize the grass about 4 times a year with uh, 50 to 75 pounds of actual in,
Okay.
and then
And you
and
have
then
to, because
yeah, and then
nobody's buying a product that looks poor. You have to have a good looking product out there, Sean.
you're correct, correct, yes. And we'll mow this stuff. A lot of times it's twice a week, because since we're using so much fertilizer, I mean, we have you know 36-foot mowers that we pull with 120 horse tractors, and so there's a lot of maintenance that goes on with it, and we don't this is a little misconceptions. We don't get a crop necessarily every year. I mean, it might be every year and a half. If we're lucky and the weather cooperates, I mean, yeah, we're you know we hope to get it out in 10 months, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's 18, 16, 18 months. So
That makes sense, because that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, from the time that you get that crop started, how long until it's at maturity, so to speak, before you can harvest? And that would be that 12 to 18 month time frame before you start cutting it.
yes, yes,
All
that's
right.
correct.
Oh, we're not done with questions yet. We've got plenty more here. So if you can stick with us, we're going to take a little listen to the bottom of the hour news. And when we return, Sean Helt with Helt's Turf Farm is joining us from Missouri. And you can call us on the JLA Insurance phone line at 701 293 9000. Today we get to talk about that living, breathing crop that you don't even think that much about, turf. Well, real turf, your sod underneath your feet. And we're visiting with Sean Helt. He's with Helt's Turf Farm out of Missouri. And Tom has called in on the JLA Insurance phone line because he'd like to ask Sean a question. So go ahead, Tom.
Yes, so I apologize if Bridgette already asked you this question, but how do you seed? Do you broadcast or do you drill?
We use mainly like Brilliant seeders, like a cultipacker seeder. Typically, we use that in the fall when we in some spring. We do some spring seeding as well, but um, in the winter, we try to do a little dormant seeding in the winter. If we do that, a lot of times we have a tie drill. We that is on 3.5 inch centers, and because and then we crisscross that a couple different ways to get it, the seed close enough where it'll fill in. So
I missed that. You did say that, and I thought I caught that at the very end of that other one with the 3.5 inches. You're right. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So thank you,
No,
thank you for answering that question again.
Don't you worry, Tom. We're glad when you call in, and I know Sean was kind of looking forward to answering questions today and talking about the business that he knows so well. So, okay, Sean, some other questions for you. Soil type. How much does that matter? Is there a reason why you're located where you are in order for best growth for the sod?
We're in kind of some rolling hills. I mean, we've got some like second bottom ground. We really don't have any river bottom stuff, and you typically see a lot of sod farms, on the river bottoms. But I guess the one good thing is we don't have to worry about the floods too bad, and but yeah, we have like some silty loam, and we have our topsoil's fairly deep here. I mean, we've been harvesting off of one of these farms for probably close to 40 years now, and so so we that was probably more luck than anything. We just got lucky.
So, when you are going through your growing season for your a particular field, and is there a point where you say, this is so good, I want to let this go for seed? Or is that not part of your business? You want to harvest yours in order to take it as sod for someone's lawn or athletic field?
We don't grow anything for seed. Our humidity's so tough on the seed business around here that, I mean, years ago when I was a kid, there was a little bit of a bluegrass seed shortage. I mean, that was probably in about 1975, roughly, or six in there. And we had to kind of grow some of our own seed. And we had some bluegrass strippers, and we used an old farmhouse as a drying bin with window fans. But we mainly get most of our seed out of the Willamette Valley out in Oregon.
So how do you harvest? I mean, I'm pretty familiar with a combine, driven one, and been in the field for grain harvest, but this would be very different.
Yeah. So we have specialty equipment, and it's a we harvest two different size rolls. We harvest what we call small rolls, and we have two different machines. One machine, they still cut 1 square yard, which is 9 square feet. One of the machines is 18 inches wide by 6 foot long. I mean, the rolls are, and then the other machine cuts a roll that's 2 feet wide by 4.5 feet long. But then for what we call big rolls, we have these machines that will cut a roll that's 4 foot wide by 90 feet long, and there's about 40 square yards of sod on those rolls. And that's typically what we use on commercial jobs, sports fields. We have our own install crews as well that go to town and do residential, commercial, sports fields, golf courses. And my install crews, they use big rolls on everything. They would rather use the big rolls. So.
Oh, that makes sense. So, okay, when it comes to doing harvest, how long from the time that you cut those rolls until you do an installation so that nothing dies?
We typically harvest everything same day. I mean, time is your enemy on this thing. And early spring, late fall, when it's cooler out, cooler nights, not a lot of humidity, we'll harvest the night before or the afternoon before for the stuff going out that morning. But we're getting to the point, now where the days are heating up, the humidity's
Hmm.
higher, and especially if we've freshly fertilized a field, you'll have that fertilizer in the grass, and with that heat and humidity, and you roll the grass up, and it stays rolled up. It gets hot, kind of like hay would get hot and steamy, and
Hmm.
that the grass does not last very long when it does that.
So you're taking it right away to the installation. My question then is, what recommendations do you give to the new homeowner or business owner who's having this installed? What are some tips to success for them?
Well, we hand out a flyer. This is mainly on the installs we do, but and we give it to we sell retail at our office, and we deliver to other contractors and homeowners, whatever. I mean, we sell it any way you can think of, but and we offer this little pamphlet handout to everyone. But um, you know, I like to tell everybody to water more frequently, less, you know, shorter intervals, more times versus, a lot of people want to go, oh, I've watered for 4 hours, one time a day. And that's not the best for the grass because, you'll get standing water and then you're not watering for another 20 some hours. And you get the heat of the sun kind of warming that standing water up. And it's rough on the grass that way. So, little 10-15 minute spurts 4 or 5 times a day is actually ideal.
Question from a listener is also asking, how far away do you ship? It sounds like you stay fairly close to Kansas City.
Yeah, we mainly, it's normally 100-mile radius or maybe 150-mile radius from our location, but sometimes like we're in the Kansas City area, and sometimes in the Des Moines or Omaha area, they will freeze up before we do, and there'll be guys trying to finish up late fall jobs, and we'll mainly hire a trucking company to you know to do the hauling for us. But we'll go 250, 300 miles sometimes.
Excellent. And we are scrolling some pictures from your website right now on our live stream brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. So for those of you watching, you get the added benefit of seeing some of the equipment and how these rolls are loaded,
So,
etc. Now,
so
Sean,
yeah, those are some of the big rolls.
those are very big. And you're not only harvesting the turf that you raise, you guys farm. Is that, did you start farming or have the farm because of some of the rotation with your grass crop, or was there just we wanted to farm?
Well, so my grandpa was a farmer, and my dad left the farm because it wasn't a big farm. I mean, my dad left the farm in the I think he graduated high school in '59 or '60, and he left the farm, and he drove a truck. He was a Teamster truck driver for 10 years, and before he got into the sod business. But so my mom and dad, they were strictly sod farmers. And then the '08 housing crisis hit, and we had a lot of
Mhm.
acres that we didn't need anymore, for sod anyway. And so you have to be resilient and figure out how you're going to make it. So we diversified, and we raised corn, soybeans. We've recently got into the alfalfa business, and we've bought some farms and leased some more farms since then. I mean, because we kind of like doing both, and yeah, so we do a little bit of everything.
And there's rarely any downtime between all of those operations, is my guess.
No, no, and a lot of it hits at the same time, so we weren't thinking there. But yeah, but back to your question, crop rotation's a big deal. I mean, um, if we can grow corn and soybeans in a field, and you know, and get the soil loosened back up and get some organic matter back in the dirt before it goes back into sod production for another 3 to 5 years, and then we try to rotate all that around.
Oh man, that's an excellent explanation of why you would be doing it, and I really appreciate it. Sean, folks may be curious where they can find out more about your business or maybe ask questions, and where might they do that?
So yeah, we have we have a website that's helps turf farms. Um, I, and then we have a Facebook page that's helps turf farm Facebook page. You you can email us at uh, at I think it's I oh shoot I think it's info
I,
at helpsturffarm.com,
it is.
or
I saw
or
it
you
that
can
way.
Google us. You can Google us and give us a phone call too.
And I think it's fun that people are curious, especially when you see some of the equipment. So you just never know when someone might reach out and just want to know more
Yeah.
information. So I appreciate you being able to do that, Sean. Thank you so very much for spending some time with us today.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
Well, for those listening, do not go anywhere. We're going to once again review that backyard chicken egg picking forecast for the weekend. And I've got a few other ag headlines to touch on. Here we are rolling through a lovely Thursday afternoon. We're looking to get to highs right around 69 degrees. Maybe we'll even touch 70. Now, rolling through the rest of the weekend, you'll see tomorrow probably just over into that 70-degree mark, but a chance of showers. And I hope we follow through with somewhere right around 75 degrees Saturday, Sunday, even into Monday, with another chance of rain on Tuesday. So let's watch how all that develops. So far, so good on pretty decent weather happening. Let's talk about guard dogs, the ones on the farm. They don't necessarily get a lot of respect. Sometimes they get yelled at when they chase the cattle the wrong way, or if they nip at the delivery driver stopping in the yard. But realistically, they've got a pretty big purpose. We often think of those big guard dogs as security, but even more so, they're probably even better at biosecurity for the animals that they protect. Big white dogs like the Great Pyrenees, first of all, they have been bred to be that guard dog, particularly for sheep. And it started 6,000 years back in what was then present day Turkey. But now the dogs with not just sheep flocks, but with livestock such as um, beef animals, etc., they've just become more and more common. And they really are a great companion. They will patrol territory, they will mark territory, bark, and make sure to keep away predators. But also, I mentioned biosecurity. Great Pyrenees are bonded to cattle and they are very effective in reducing the risk of bovine tuberculosis from white-tailed deer to cattle because they keep the deer away from the cattle's feed yards, meaning like their hay reserves. Because when those deer are out there, they can bring tuberculosis and they leave that behind when they're feeding on those piles and also defecating. And so by keeping those away, the dog is actually keeping disease away from his herd as well. Or when working with sheep, protects the flock because with sheep there's the possibility of transmission of brucellosis on western rangelands that come from elk, and that can even be transmitted to beef animals as well. So guard dogs, they're a great deterrent. Those farm dogs have a purpose. Some of the breeds that people use the most, particularly around cattle, because they can be trained to be pretty good at helping herd. You will see more of the blue heelers. Collies are a pretty good breed that folks look for. And then it kind of just depends on the size of the animal that you want. Do you want a really big dog that gives a big woof, or a smaller dog that's just pretty yippy? You can decide. China's poor wheat crop may actually spur some imports. Chinese state buyers could raise their wheat imports from millers later in the year as rain during their harvest has been damaging to some crops, and that's going on with their world's top grower. They're looking at right now about 7% of their output is going to have a quality downgrade to it. Even with a modest increase in their wheat imports, pardon me, had cough, that could really change their global prices. So, excuse me, we'll see what El Nino does to bring dryness to those major regions and if that can also change their quality. Looking ahead to other things that are going on right now, NDSU is encouraging growers to please monitor fields for cutworm activity. We're seeing more and more. Extension entomologist Janet Knodel said cutworms can affect nearly all major crops, particularly during their seedling stage. Specific crops are more vulnerable, like sunflowers, peas, and lentils, because you don't have as many plants out in the field. So get on out there, start scouting, look for those cutworms. Remember, they're not active during the day, so you have to look for dead plants or wilting plants. That might be a problem. Sorry, Addison. Guess my sinus
I don't have
caught
any
up
of
to
your
me
talking
today.
points. I can't take over. Just get it over with.
You can't. The problem is sometimes your allergies and a sinus deal kind of catch you off guard, and that just did. We're good though.
It happens.
Okay.
It happens to the best of us.
There's a big focus on protein going on right now, especially with this increased use of GLP-1 drugs for weight loss, and it's really growing. CoBank has what they call their knowledge exchange, and these trends have resulted in an increase in meat snack sales. Who doesn't love jerky and beef sticks, right? So those sales have increased more than 45% in the last 4 years. That's a $4.5 billion business. CoBank also has pointed out that specific and significant investments in producing those high protein meat snacks in recent years has really started to shape the future. With all this protein being used, there's a lot more pressure on the dairy industry. Whey, which is a byproduct of the cheese making process, is being used everywhere. You might say, no way, but you really are seeing it in things from Starbucks drinks to what you're doing with granola bars and other snack foods as more and more people want to find ways to add protein into their diet. And whey has been a protein that's been used more and more often. Yesterday, we had a chance to talk to Noah Beck. He was talking about the National Red Power Roundup in Huron, South Dakota. I just want to remind folks that that is coming up June 25th to the 27th. They're not only talking about IH tractors at the Red Power Roundup, they're looking for all of them to come out and be shown off, but scouts, the travelalls, air conditioning units, freezers that were built by IH because International Harvester had a very big presence in a lot of areas. And they expect vehicles from Texas, Connecticut, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and even California. So join them down in Huron next week. But next, you can join Jay Thomas for his show.